people often think that like a kilo lost in a week is a realistic goal for everyone, but it isn't. It is dependent on what your starting point is. Losing a kilo for someone who's really overweight and has very little muscle mass and a lot of fat to lose will be a very, very conservative goal. They can probably aim to lose between 2 and 3 kilos as well in the beginning, if they push a more moderate or even aggressive deficit. And then for someone who's quite tiny, fairly lean, losing a kilo a week, especially if they are unable to increase their activities and they have to do it all through diet, is potentially the matter of weeks to lose a kilo. Can be 3 to 4 weeks to lose a kilogram if we are talking about body fat. So just setting realistic expectations, I think, can save people from a lot of heartache and frustration. I have nothing against more aggressive diets that are very, very motivating at the beginning. I have a lot against people restricting too much, not really understanding what they need to do as a bare minimum to fuel their bodies, and then binging at the back end of it. My diet for the weeks where I have been dieting, or for the days where I have been dieting, was quite aggressive, but then it allowed me for a lot of flexibility for the weeks where I didn't want to diet. So out of these 6-7 weeks, I probably have been dieting 4 in total, which is quite nice if you think about it. And in terms of the perceived effort on my behalf, it was much nicer because I have not been strictly dieting for 7 weeks. But then pushing my deficit to a more aggressive level when I was dieting made it a little bit easier for me. Like, it wasn't as difficult as it would have been just to drop my calories by 500 and just count everything and really think of what I'm eating and how much and how to distribute my calories. It was actually a lot less thought for me to maintain a more aggressive deficit, and it's quite motivating to see that big weight drop. But then again, it comes down to the individual, and it comes down to what is manageable for them and what will be sustainable long enough to be able to get to where they want to get. I kind of forgot what your initial question was, but then this is hopefully useful.
Yeah, it's just sort of a particular end date.
Oh yeah, what my goal is, or how long I do wanna do it. Yeah, I guess just to kind of try to stir my thought process back to the question, I would like to push it a little bit more, but then equally I acknowledge that I might not get exactly to that body weight that I had in mind, but I know that in terms of the look I was going for, I'm nearly there. So either way, I feel like it has been a successful period, and I won't feel like I can't enjoy Christmas because I didn't get where I want to be, but I also won't feel like, well, fuck it, because I didn't achieve my goal, I might as well undo all the hard work. So just understanding that not everything works out exactly as we planned it, but that is no reason to just forget about it and give up working on it altogether.
There's this calmness around dieting, like we talk about people who have come off of their, have had a bad weekend, and then it's like sod it, and the toys go out the pram, and then it's just like self-sabotage. That really only tends to happen with first-time dieters, I feel that.
Or unsuccessful dieters. Those who have never successfully dieted.
Well, people who diet may have lost weight, but maybe not in the best way possible, through like, heavy restriction without changing relationship for food, juice cleanses, massively restricting calories, and just like white knuckling it, and just going for as long as possible. And then you get that, this is where we get that yo-yo term, don't we? Where the intention is just, I have to get to this number, but without a priority being there, or like a purpose bigger. Whereas, the people that have lost weight successfully and then may have put on a bit of weight due to whatever reason, I think it's quite healthy to go through these phases. I, through the year, would fluctuate 10 kilos, but it's kind of by choice, because I will allow myself to relax my nutrition somewhat, and like I love food. I will always love food. It's like one of the best things ever, and I will allow myself to do that. But I think this is the one of the benefits of playing sports at such an early age is that like an aesthetic goal or a health goal outside of some health goals that have markers is they're quite broad. Saying I want to look better, or you have this image in your head of what you want to look like. You have to understand, right, where did that image come from? Because I mean, you can dip into the world of like society and social media and all these people with rippling abs and, you know, the most amazing bodies. That therein lies the difficulty. Is like, I don't think a lot of people are aware just how much effort it can take when you're at this point, and the point you're trying to get to is here, but that you may actually get to some points where you've achieved something amazing, but because your goal is so far away, you never feel like you've achieved something.
Exactly.
Whereas that's sort of the, as much as, like, you're just lying if you don't want to look good. And what looks good, I appreciate, is subjective, but like having that metric that's so clear cut, there's not much emotion in it of I want to run a marathon at this pace, I want to lift this much weight. It is what it is. And the secondary thing is, hey, you look better, you got a bigger chest, you got a slimmer waist, you've got abs, you've done this. It's secondary. It's not that it's less important. It's just, I find goals, having a focus on like a performance goal is way easier because your goals are very sort of, that's it, there is a line in the sand and you either got it or you didn't. Whereas an aesthetic goal, the lines are very blurred.
I think also with aesthetic goals, sometimes people think a certain weight on the scale is the same as an aesthetic goal. Like they almost just set a weight goal rather than a goal for how to look. And both of those can be realistic or unrealistic, because when I say that I would like to see my abs or have visible abs, we are not talking about abs that you see on bikini competitors. Nowhere near. I will not be able to get that lean after a couple of weeks of dieting, nor do I want to get to that point, because we should all know, I guess it is quite a common understanding now in the fitness world, that reaching those levels of leanness is not healthy to maintain, and it requires a lot of restriction. And most of the competitors who would have talked about how hard their diets were and how miserable they have felt at those points when they were the leanest, they admit that they didn't want to maintain, nor did they think it would be a good idea to maintain that physique. I don't even want to attempt to get to that point, because I know that would require so much sacrifice from me that I'm not willing to do, because I just don't value that end point enough to even consider wanting to get there. So when I say that I want to have visible abs, it's just because I know what my body is able to do, because I have been leaner in the past, and that has been many years ago, and I had to get below 60 kilograms to get to that point where I was like really I had my abs that visible. And I know that just in the past few years I managed to put on some decent muscle tissue, so now I wouldn't have to get that low on the scales to see my physique get so defined. But that is just, again, years of work that I put in, and I haven't dieted in that many years. I think this is just kind of this understanding that we can't get it from one moment to the other. Like starting in January to look good in the summer really depends, your success really depends on what your starting point is and how much work you're willing to put in, because some people just don't start in a position where what they have in mind is realistic. Not to say that they couldn't improve massively, it just often takes so long to be actually able to succeed that people just give up before they have reached any noticeable level of success, because if you want to achieve a great physique in 2 months, then you're not gonna be willing to put in a whole year and decide in January this year that, okay, I'm just gonna work as hard as I can until I look the way I want to look, whether it's this summer or next summer. But if you just started, you might achieve amazing things in a year and a half, but maybe half a year is just not quite enough to get to where you want to be. And when after a couple of months you don't see as much of a change as you were hoping, you might not continue. And I think this is a big difference between people who successfully lose a lot of weight and get to where they want to be, is that they are not that strict with an end goal. They are not that strict that like whatever happens, I will have to get there. Like, unless you're a professional fighter having to drop weight, or you have some sort of an event where you have to be a certain weight, most of us have the luxury of a lifetime to improve ourselves. And I don't really mind if I'm not gonna have my best physique this one particular year, if that means that I will be able to achieve that physique sometime in my life. Because there is no real rush. We are just impatient and we want instant gratification, and we want to achieve things with the least amount of effort in the most successful way, because that is what gets recognition. No one will notice if you only lose a kilo or 2 a month until you have lost 10 to 15 kilos. And they look at you and they haven't seen you in like half a year, and like, oh my god, you look like a different person.
Yeah, I think the time goals. I mean, if we go back to our like PT training, we had like SMART goals, didn't we?
Of course. Better SMART goals, Jack.
Well, I'll tell you this part of the SMART goal that helps me. So, you spoke about fighters trying to get to a particular weight, particular time and stuff. So this is where this is where it differs on the person. Like some people would need a little bit of leeway of saying, I want to be this weight at this time. But we know there's people that will go, you know, the typical thing of I want to get into my wedding dress. I want to be a particular weight. I mean, what a risk, buy a wedding dress that you can't fit into to get to it. I mean, it's going to help some people, and others it's going to ruin their day.
Some people do brilliantly.
I think this is like, I know being in sports, this helped me a lot, was, you know, in powerlifting. I mean, I was in a weight category that I was called a tweener, so I was in between two weight categories. So it was too much effort to get in the lower category, but I just got my ass handed to me in the higher category. So I was in this strange one. So I was never competitive enough to be able to have to drop water weight and do these 24-hour weigh-ins. But naturally, I knew what a good weight was for me. But equally, with other like just with if we outside of weight loss, like just training, like if we just think of goals, like when I was training for the marathon, like the marathon's going to happen whether you're there or not. Yep. It's going to happen. Like you are, you know, this training is so important to you, but to the marathon, whether I'm there or not, it makes no difference. Yeah. So having a date in mind, just purely about goals, that massively helped me.
But we are talking about performance goals here, and I do think in terms of thinking about performance, that can be the difference between going out for a run on a rainy day or staying inside. Plus, I think with the marathon, like often it's not even what time you want to run it in, it's whether or not you can do it. And you know, every little counts. And I think for some reason we keep forgetting that with dieting as well, every little counts, because it just seems such a minuscule effort. People forget that you could just park your car a bit further and walk. And you might add in 1,000 steps every day just by doing that. You could just choose not to have like a big portion of rice, you could just have a little bit less and fill your plate. No, not every one of us could do that. What would be an example in nutrition that is not a sacrifice, or it doesn't feel like as much of a sacrifice in your eyes?
Like, I know that it's not often, and I'm just using it in comparison to say yourself, where you really do enjoy sort of sweet foods. You will omit some carbs in your dinner so that you will allow for certain sweet foods because that's something that you enjoy.
Because that doesn't seem like as much of a sacrifice for me as it would if I couldn't have my sweets.
I would any day of the week, I would sacrifice a slice of cake or a pastry so I could have rice on my food or potatoes or bread.
Yeah.
It's, for me, the savoury stuff, it's not something that I like crave in the same way as like someone looking through a sweet shop window. God, I love that. But I know for a fact that I will get my carbs from somewhere, and I genuinely enjoy that. I genuinely enjoy like a larger portion. I enjoy like a meal without carbs. Just feels strange to me. It really does. But with regards to sort of managing that, like during the day, it's like I spend lots of the day hungry just because of the job and the changes in the job. It's not like we have these set hours and things like that, which is very difficult, and one thing that I need to get better at. But when it comes, like, because we're so busy in the day, it just doesn't bother me really with regards to food. I don't have many cravings, but the evenings are a massive struggle, especially if I've not by choice but restricted my food through the day.
Hungry.
I mean, it's insatiable, and it's not necessarily for sweet stuff. It's just for calories. Like I just need food. But we've been like, the thing that we found, you've got this mad craving for food, yet we'll just say, should we just go to bed early? So we're away from food, and then like once you're in bed, I can't be bothered to go downstairs.
Because it's not hunger necessarily.
No.
Sometimes we might get hungry if we are watching a movie until late, but more often than not, it's not because we are hungry. It's just because it's that time of the night where we tend to normally snack. But if we want to avoid that, we might as well just go upstairs
Change
and
your
go
environment.
to bed. Yeah, exactly. That's a massive thing.
And you always wake up and like you don't crave that thing.
No, not
Once
in
you
the
go to
morning.
bed and you wake up, you're like, it's a new day. It's a new start.
Overeats an ice cream at 6 a.m. in the morning. It's always when we wind down in the evening. That's normal.
Yeah.